All right, so welcome to part 3 of the reaction to the Psychedelic Apocalypticism of Terence McKenna by Atun Shei Films. This will probably be the last part that I'm going to do tonight. Not sure how far into this next segment we're going to go, but we'll give it a shot. And then towards the end of that, I'm going to begin tripping myself and then doing some sort of game. I'll decide which one I want to do once it's time. But once again, for YouTube TOS overlords, this video is a reaction that focuses heavily on education and harm reduction. Please don't smite me. I'm sick of having to contest these things. And here we go.
Mind-altering substances have been utilized throughout history by people all around the globe for various social, ritual, or religious purposes. The most notable in the Eastern Hemisphere being alcohol, and in the Western Hemisphere, tobacco. Entheogenic plants and fungi are likewise found worldwide, where they have played a subtler but no less important role in the mystical traditions of some indigenous and pre-modern cultures. Though psychedelic shamanism is most typically associated with the indigenous people of Central and South America, Northern Eurasia actually has quite a strong tradition of mushroom ecstasy. The fly agaric mushroom, which does not contain psilocybin but nonetheless can produce psychotropic effects, was historically consumed by indigenous Siberians.
Amanita
Yep.
that you just showed.
Yeah, so obviously for our community, the mystery magic mushroom community, we're likely far more aware of Amanita muscaria than most traditional psychonauts would be because it's in so many of these products. He's going to cover some of the details, but it's clear that this is kind of just more of like a cursory overview because, you know, they're not psychedelic. They're certainly psychoactive, right? Like they'll do some shit for you, but so the old-timey alchemist term is the fly agaric. It's your classic, you know, red and white mushroom, the Mario mushroom, the emoji mushroom. They were traditionally understood to be poisonous, but that's kind of like a overgeneralization. I mean, keep in mind, alcohol is poisonous, right? Like it's all a matter of perspective, and a lot of cultures used it in shamanic rituals, specifically a lot of like Scandinavian peoples and a lot of the Finno-Ugric peoples, so Finland, Estonia, some of what used to be, I believe it was called Perm. It's parts of like northern Russia. So a lot of those cultures were very big into using it. A lot of the Central Asian steppe cultures used it a lot. It was written about quite a bit in Tibetan Buddhist monastic texts as a way to kind of be a meditational aid. It's all over the place. Lots of people use it, but it's far more of a gamble to take on its own than standard, you know, psilocybin mushrooms because of the way that you need to prepare it. And as he elaborates more, we can as well.
Of northern Scandinavia and possibly other pre-Christian European peoples such as the Norse. But for whatever reason, fungal teachers never really caught on in the religious tradition.
Yeah, so you mentioned the Norse. So this is contested. It's unclear, but it's generally understood by some stories, some chronicles, and then later written texts by people who visited the area that the idea of the berserkers, you know, the Viking berserkers, that they were using Amanita muscaria to kind of get them into that dreamlike rage state. And so if you've done Amanita muscaria, if you've heard of it, you might be kind of surprised why it would make you so active as opposed to sleepy, because it's generally understood as like a sleepy substance, and it has to do with the ratio between the active ingredients. The three main ones being mucimol or muscimol, muscarine, which is far less common, and ibotenic acid. Typically, how you would prepare Amanita muscaria to be used in like a conventional standpoint is you would boil it first and then basically juice the fucker. And so when you heat it up, the ibotenic acid becomes mucimol, and mucimol is that sort of sleepy, almost benzo sensation, while ibotenic acid can be far more manic and rapid. So the berserkers would eat the bitches raw. Like that was like the understood concept, that they would slam them raw. It would make them very sick and nauseous to begin with, but then it would put them into a berserk state. Once again, it's hard to say how accurate these stories are Because if you don't know, while the Norse had the runic writing system, runes were not really used for chronicling. They were more used as like adornments. You might see it on swords, you might see it on like runic slabs for religious purposes, but it wasn't really used for like scribal work. So they didn't write down history. Most of it was oral. So a lot of what we know about Norse culture is either heavily influenced by, Christianity and Christian missionaries coming in and writing about it, or like oral traditions passed down over time and then eventually written down like centuries after that culture was ostensibly done. So we don't really know. It's hard to say, but it certainly is an interesting story.
Traditions of Africa, Asia, Europe, or European colonized North America, and instead were relegated to the mystical fringe, the province of obscure and secret tribal folkways. This could be due to the dominance of prophetic rather than shamanistic faiths in these regions. In prophetic religions, God comes down from on high to talk to you. In psychedelic shamanism, you take a substance that allows you to travel to the domain of the gods. A common theme across Eurasian monotheism is the restriction of access to mind-altering substances, most notably Islam's prohibition of alcohol. It could also be because psychedelia is egalitarian by nature. Anyone can take these substances and commune with the divine.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time in occultic, esoteric, mystic groups when I was younger. I mean, I'm still interested in it, but it's kind of a different situation today. And so in these practices, there's kind of the understanding of two types of schools of thought with religion: the right-handed path and the left-handed path. Right-handed path religions are those that are very domineering, imperial, and conquering. So the Abrahamic religions are considered to be right-handed, where you are God-fearing. You fear God. In Islam literally translates to submission. You submit. And so with the left-handed paths, typically found in a lot of these like pre-Christian paganism, there's this idea of, like being a medium, an intermediary, somebody who communes with them, who has more access to them. And you would see this in a lot of these different pagan cultures. And unfortunately, with these cultures, the way that these shamans would interact with the community, or these mediums with the community, was like this sort of symbiotic relationship. But when you would have these imperialist, right-handed path religions show up, they would very quickly just curb stomp a lot of these older schools. And another aspect that's kind of, I hate to be reductionist, but like from a standard bystander, a layperson, right-hand religions are easy. It requires less effort. You just follow the rules and do your thing. No thinking, no like mysticism, no advanced thought. Yeah, sure, you would see this in a lot of these, like, in Christianity and in Islam in particular. I mean, frankly, still Kabbalah and Judaism. But there was still this idea of like a clerical order who like came down on high and delivered the commands to the people, and the people had to listen. I've never liked that idea of thinking. But like with these shamanistic practices, especially if you integrate psychedelics, you have to do a lot of thinking for yourself. You have to really work through some shit. It's not easy. And so I can see why these imperializing, domineering religious cultures would not want people to have these substances, because they make you think more. I would say in kind of medieval Islam, there was this big debate on the idea of like, is it appropriate to use hashish? Hashish, if you're not familiar, is basically like really fucking condensed weed, specifically like, indica weed. And so some mystic orders, some like Sufi style mystic orders in Islam would use this, and they would like, more of an idea of like communing with God on like a one-on-one level. But then there would be like the clerical order that would very much crack down on them. If you're not familiar, I'm pretty sure it released either today or yesterday. You know Assassin's Creed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So assassin is a mispronunciation. The term is hashashin. Hashish. Yeah, they were a mystic order who got blasted on edibles and then would assassinate political targets who they deemed to be like, too domineering. And so they're this like mystical, Shia Sufi order that lived up in the mountains, and then they would like whack high power political and religious figures. Fascinating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wild.
Yeah. Bet you that's a new one that a lot of people don't learn. Hashashin. Funny. Very interesting.
Yeah,
The
that is
central
crazy.
idea
Damn,
of
I didn't even know
monotheistic
that.
theology strongly parallels authoritarian
You're
politics.
teaching me a whole bunch of new shit.
It's one of those like I have all this weird wacky information. It's often not useful. it
kinda
is
cool,
the
though,
definition
'cause
of the
it's
weird flex, but okay. Yeah, like
It's very good history to know.
now, like let's. I'm actually gonna pull it.
Better history than some of the other history about wars and stupid shit like that in the past.
All right, here we go. The Order of the Assassins. So it's pronounced Hashashiyin. I'm trying to think of how to pronounce this last part. The Iyin means like order of or people of. So the first part is Hashashi, which means like somebody who does hashish. And then we can go down to the origins. We'll see if it describes it in any meaningful detail. This group is also one of those to where they're very much like shrouded in mystery, and a lot of the texts written about them are by their opposition. So like biased against them.
Yeah.
Yeah, etymology. All right. The word asas in Arabic means principle. Asasiyun, plural from literary Arabic, were as defined in Arabic the principal people. The term assassin likely has roots in hashashin, hashish smokers or user, a mispronunciation of the original asyash. I can't pronounce this for shit. Yeah, originally referring to the methods of political control exercised by them. One can see how it became assassin in several languages to describe similar activities there. Yeah, so it's interesting. Yeah, legends and folklore. The Old Man of the Mountain. So the main antagonist of the first Assassin's Creed game, I think his name is like Al-Muhadin. The guy who's the leader of the Assassin's Order, but who turns out to be a secret Templar. He's believed to be this Old Man of the Mountain. It's complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool though. Damn, that's
it's
like
it's weird.
yeah, it definitely sounds like some like Assassin's Creed shit for sure.
I'm surprised that I don't recall that being discussed much in the games. I think it might have been alluded to in the first game, but I don't think that was like a big aspect of the storytelling. Oh, that's a whole different story for another day. The fact that the lore and mythology in the Assassin's Creed games is basically like Gnostic Christianity. That's a whole fun different conversation.
Yeah, like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood or Revelations. I can't remember which one of those ones, but that one was very heavily in the realm of Christian or something like that.
Well, yeah. So Gnosticism is this idea of like the way that we perceive Christianity today is like fundamentally false. It was contrived by the Roman Empire, and there's a lot of evidence to support this. We can get into that one in another video. Otherwise, I'll be off on a tangent.
Has often been consciously
That is
deployed
cool,
by
man.
authoritarians as a tool for centralized
It's cool that you know
control.
all this stuff, man.
Hierarchical agricultural societies with a monarchy and or a powerful priestly class.
Because I don't
really
know
have no
like a whole
cultural
ton about
use.
this stuff. Like you studied up about this stuff a lot, so.
I tend to I learn things very well if it kind of comes to me naturally and it kind of fits into my weird ADHD hyperfixation of the day. So like I'll retain a bunch of weird ass information. It's rarely useful in like practical reality, but like it's something.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to learn though. I mean, it's knowledge that nobody else would probably keep.
There
in
are,
their
if
head
you're
too much,
interested
but
in these
you're very
subjects, there are
complex with
definitely
it.
some YouTube channels I can recommend, and I might do reactions to a few of them in the future.
Yeah, I'd be definitely like interested in some of that for sure.
For shamanism and the psychotropic plants
I'm gonna-
and fungi which can facilitate it. In any case, it was in Mesoamerica and the Amazon basin where entheogenic cults truly thrived. Indigenous Mexican rituals involving consuming mushrooms from various species of the genus Psilocybe were briefly observed by Spanish chroniclers in the 16th century before being brutally repressed during the conquest. Spanish colonizers either exterminated or irrevocably transformed just about every indigenous cultural tradition in mainland Central and South America, but some lifeways proved remarkably resilient, including isolated mushroom cults in places like the Oaxaca Mountains and the western Amazon. which of course is also renowned for the ceremonial use of ayahuasca, a potion made from the vine of Banisteriopsis caapi, which contains high amounts of naturally occurring dimethyltryptamine, or DMT. These various religions successfully kept their secrets safe for 4...
What's up?
Don't they still do like spiritual?
Yeah, so
ayahuasca.
I'm not super familiar with the specifics on it, but supposedly there, in certain places, there are like a couple distinct groups who have authorized rights because of like tribal privileges or whatever their current, with like the reservation system in the United States, there are a couple groups that are authorized to use it for religious ceremony, and so some groups will kind of sell that experience to tourists ostensibly. It's, from what I've read about it, I'm a bit cynical of it because it seems like it's very much like stupid rich Silicon Valley types who are trying to have like a magical experience will like pay tons of money to go to like one of these groups, and then it's like very, it comes off as theater to me. But like I said, I've not done nearly enough research to say that with any degree of confidence. I'm not besmirching any of these people. I'm just very skeptical of the commercialization of this kind of stuff. And often it takes that form.
Yeah, I've heard that you got to be careful too to who you go to, because there's some shamans out there that are claimed to be shamans or whatever, but they're just like some fucking fake ass person who just like
just some dude, yeah,
basically doses you with some crazy shit and just like either drugs you or like fucking tries to like rape you or some shit. It's like okay,
I have heard stories of that, but yeah, it's one of those like I've heard stories of a lot of shit, so but I can definitely see it happening. I mean, people have been conned for far less.
Yeah.
Because like when you're on these types of substances, you can be very easily manipulated by somebody who's far more competent at it.
Yeah.
So like if you're in a very vulnerable state, shit can happen.
Yeah, there's this one girl in this podcast of Joe Rogan's, and I remember I was listening to this episode where she went out to one of those spiritual Amanita like experiences where she had to travel
ayahuasca,
for it.
You mean?
Oh yeah, ayahuasca.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a chance that I've seen that episode. This was several years back, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. It was like
you basically couldn't pay me to watch Joe Rogan anymore. The guy has fallen off so hard. He lost all of the things that made him charming. I'm actually gonna like rant about him once we get to the next section because it becomes relevant.
Yeah, and so like basically, she was saying that when she went out there, she had a experience where like, it's pretty much legit by the shaman, but the shaman, like while she was like under her like third experience, like because they have like a couple different sessions while they're there, after like night after night or whatever, or they keep on dosing them. So basically, I guess she said that like on the third night or something, like her big final dose or whatever, like one of the shamans like basically like kind of like groped her in her like like area. Yeah,
I believe it. Yeah, it's one of those, I could see that happening.
Yeah, or like maybe not groped her, but like definitely started touching her there or something.
Yeah, inappropriate,
and, like,
unwanted contact. Yeah,
part of the experience, but like she was like, I don't think this is like what the heck part of it. But yeah, apparently it was only for like a moment though.
Okay.
Apparently, so
Yeah, I would have seen this podcast years ago, so I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about. I might even do reviews on that kind of stuff in the future, where I like do a reaction to that.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's just
shit's complicated. Yeah, it's
yeah. Whoever's gonna go out there and do that. I personally would not want to take the risk to go out there and just meet some random guy.
Bioprospector. In 1955, following up on rumors and reports that Mazatec shamans in rural Mexico were obtaining powers of divination through the ceremonial consumption of mushrooms, R. Gordon Wasson and Valentina Wasson, an American married couple of amateur ethnomycologists, traveled to a small town in Oaxaca's Sierra Mazateca Mountains. There, they ate the fruits of the Psilocybe mexicana fungus and partook in a mushroom ceremony led by one Maria Sabina, a local healer and poet. Amazed by the experience, the Wassons collected Mexicana spores and brought them to Europe, where scientists were able to cultivate the fungus under artificial conditions. Unbeknownst to either the Wassons or Maria Sabina, the expedition to Oaxaca was clandestinely funded by the CIA's MKUltra program. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah, wow. The MKUltra connection is certainly a situation. I don't even know what to do with that information.
Yeah, like from back in the day to even now.
Fucking hell. I have a lot of commentary, but I ain't touching that one with a 10-foot pole, because like 90% of the people who talk about MKUltra are crazy, but like the shit did happen, just not all of what they think happened. Yeah.
Yeah, people still talk about it today. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, and those the same people who typically talk about it today are the same people who talk about, like, you know, the Clintons drinking baby blood and, you know, them controlling the weather. You know, like, crazy shit. Yeah, like.
Well, I mean, I do believe that he did go to Epstein Island, though, Clinton.
Oh, there's not a matter of believing. He's on the docket, for sure. No,
and same for Trump. Trump definitely went there.
Yeah, the real question is who went more?
I believe Trump probably did.
Probably.
Trump seems like the type
probably. They were pretty close. No, one of my this is a tangent, but like one of my favorite things with Republicans is to be like, they think that Democrats like Democrats. Nah, fuck it. Put Clinton in jail, put Trump in jail. You think I care? Put Biden in jail. Homie backed up a genocide. No, fuck him. Like, what are you talking about? Just because you have a weird culty relationship with your God and Savior doesn't mean that you can project that shit onto me. Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's why I just like this whole politics thing for like the whole entire time, man. I've just been like turned off.
We're cooked.
Ever since I was a kid.
So cooked.
Like,
yeah, but the thing is, like, you may not care about politics, but politics cares about you. Shit's gonna get pretty wacky soon. Yeah.
Oh, I know that. I listen to it, but I don't listen to like it religiously like some people do.
Because it will break your spirit. Yeah, the shit breaks the spirit.
I just like I know what to listen to, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Like, it's enough.
I will pass. All right, we'll probably do maybe a few more minutes of this, and then we'll call this episode, and then we'll proceed to the next activities.
2 years later, R. Gordon Wasson published an article in Life magazine titled Seeking the Magic Mushroom, telling the story of the Mexican expedition and the surreal, almost supernatural experience of his first shroom trip. The article reached an audience of millions all over the Western world and immediately captured the imagination of the counterculture. The only problem with this, other than the CIA connection, was that Sabina had only allowed the Wassons to partake in her ceremony after they had promised to keep the whole thing a secret. In the Life magazine article, Wasson initially referred to Sabina with a pseudonym, but in his follow-up book used her real name freely and published photos of her. This led to a wave of American bioprospecting to Oaxaca that continues to this day. Age-old Mazatec religious traditions were swiftly commodified and non-consensually appropriated. Meanwhile, in Europe, Swiss chemist Albert Hofmann, the inventor of LSD, isolated and synthesized psilocybin on behalf of the Sardaz Pharmaceutical Company.
Yeah, so this is a topic that I've discussed a couple times on the Reddit and some other videos. What a lot of people don't know is most of these weird research chemical, duplicates that are in a lot of these products, they all
came from Albert Hofmann.
Well, not all of them. They came from a select group of maybe like a half dozen pretty prominent scientists at the time. And but like almost all of them were on contract by big pharmaceutical in order to like patent it. So there's like this creepy, insidious nature to it. And so most of them were abandoned for one reason or another, where it was like, too big of like black market use, not useful enough for population control. Like not useful as like with opiates, you can addict motherfuckers to opiates. You can't really do that with these research chems, and it like,
yeah.
So they were shady corporate assholes in big pharma decided that all of these weird research chems were too good to be worthy of them capitalizing. So they just gave up on them. So like a bunch of them just kind of sat in the background for several decades and nobody even really talked about them much. I think the only
That's
one that
kinda
like
sad.
really made it far for like a hot minute was 2CB, where it was marketed as like an aphrodisiac party hybrid, and so like that one maintained until like the 90s, and then it was eventually scheduled as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2CB used to be called something called Nexus, and yeah, it was also just kind of sold in smoke shops. Sold as like it almost had like a similar marketing that you might see like poppers today. It's interesting.
Huh.
Yeah.
I always wondered, so like, I always felt like when I hear of 2CB, I feel like it's like more of like a stimulant thing, like LSD type thing.
Yeah,
more
it's
than, like,
far closer
anything
to that.
else.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say. That's why I'm like kind of mixed on whether or not the Silly Dots feel like 2CB to me. I've never knowingly had 2CB, but I've had at minimum 3 dozen people claim that Silly Dots feel almost identical to 2CB. But for me, when I take them on their own, they're not particularly stimulating for me. It makes me feel stupid. When you combo them with other stuff, that's a different story.
Yeah.
All right.
Got you.
which immediately patented an extraction procedure and began selling psilocybin pills under a brand name. Among the Mazatec, Maria Sabina was widely blamed for this catastrophe. Shunned by her community, she was briefly jailed, her house was burned down, and she died in poverty. Tough stuff, but it would still be some time before magic mushroom.
Yeah, talk about the consequences of capitalism. The combo of imperialism, cultural appropriation, and capitalism. A bunch of people were fascinated in this rich and diverse culture from a different part of the world. They go there, they yoink it, they come home, they patent it. And then the people who it came from got completely shit on for it. Very typical telling story.
Yep.
Became widely available. The drug of choice during the psychedelic 60s was LSD, Albert Hoffman's problem child, as he famously put it. The mushroom remained relatively obscure and was primarily associated with pseudoscientific research into extrasensory perception, as shown in a fascinating 1961 episode of the TV show One Step Beyond.
Secret arrangements are made, and we are guided to this hidden place to wait. But it is almost midnight before the brujo appears. He has practiced the secret and all but forbidden rites of the sacred mushroom for decades. Our scientists have prepared test questions to evaluate the brujo's extrasensory perception. To achieve spiritual union, they also must eat the mushroom. And then, oddly enough, the first sound we hear as the chemical in the mushroom takes effect is laughter.
But that all changed in the spring of...
Yeah, the idea of just like loose eating one of these mushrooms like on its own is crazy to me. That shit tastes so rancid. Oh my god. No shot you could catch me just chomping down a magic mushroom. The shit is awful. Oh. Guy just pops it like it's candy. Oh, I would have
Wait,
started...
what do you mean? Like, just the regular?
I'm saying the magic mushroom. That guy literally just took it and just like ate it. I could never. It would make me barf in an instant. Oh my god. The flavor is so bad to me.
Wait, like just regular shrooms?
Yeah, psilocybin mushrooms. Yeah, I cannot eat them on their own.
Yeah, for me, I don't know what the deal is. I love the taste.
That's
dude.
crazy
like,
to me.
I
That is
actually love it.
You need to be behind bars for that opinion.
Like, dude, it's so weird because, like, dude, I genuinely, like, when I eat them, dude, I just want to keep on consuming them.
That
But
is
then I'm like, dude,
crazy
I
to me.
can't. I don't
Yeah,
want to.
that is
hard,
crazy to me. No, the only way that I can eat the regular stuff is I will use well, it's been a long time since I've done this. Feds don't raid my house. I don't have any. It's not worth your time. I would take a really fine hemp flour grinder and put the bitches in there and make it into a powder. I would then add the powder into a shake or smoothie and then drink that.
Yeah,
and when you do that, you
people
can't
do
taste
that.
it at all. Yeah, and sometimes when you combo it with the those kind of substances, it almost like aids in digestion in a way, so it's like less bad.
Yeah, it's so weird though. Like, people say they get some nauseous or like
I get
fucks up the stomach.
extremely nauseous from this stuff. Even the 4-ACO DMT makes me very nauseous.
Yeah, it's so weird. I've never gotten nauseous or anything from mushrooms. Like, I never not one bad side effect, other than feeling just a little overwhelmed.
Yeah,
Like
just
my,
the intensity of it. Yeah. But so
yeah, I
the
just
thing
feel
for
a
me is
little
the only
overwhelmed
time I
sometimes.
feel overwhelmed is when it's from the nausea. Yeah, but otherwise, I'm not
For
joking when I say that
me,
I could probably do heroic doses basically every night forever and be psychologically fine. Like I don't feel like it would bother me, but the stomach issues is what gets me.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
it's
o-
bad.
the only time I ever feel like really overwhelmed on this stuff is when I've had like some alcohol pre before it, or
Yeah,
like I've
don't do
had
that one.
like some like a little bit of like too much weed throughout the day, like, because
Interestingly,
sometimes I'll
weed
like
lessens the nausea
smoke.
for me a fair bit.
Yeah, I've heard it does that for people. Yeah.
Yeah, like I intend on actually doing some of that when I take the day trippers in just a moment. We'll let him finish kind of the next main thought, and then we'll probably pause for episode 3.
1971,
I bet.
during the course of another fateful bioprospecting expedition to Latin America, where 5 early 20s hippies would find themselves at the crossroads between psychedelia, divine illumination, and plain old insanity. It's a story that reads like a collaboration between Werner Herzog and David Lynch, and it's related in lurid detail in a first-hand account by our very own Terence McKenna in his memoir, True Hallucinations.
And that seems like a perfect time to cut that one off, because then he's going to get into this, like the backstory of Terence. Yeah, so again, one of my biggest gripes with reaction videos is when people do not add enough commentary and it's basically just freebooting. I've managed to turn 24 minutes and 39 seconds into an hour and 40 minutes.
Not bad. Not bad.
Oh, we're barely even getting to it. This could be like a 10-part fucking series. Oh my god.
Yeah, isn't that Terrence right there?
That's him.
Yep.
He's got a
There
pretty
he is.
creepy stare right there. That's ominous. All right, well
He's
that'll be
probably just
the
high on mushrooms right there. Not
yeah,
playing.
he's just vibing. So that'll be the
Yeah.
end of part 3. I intend on resuming pretty soon. Well, we'll see how it goes. I feel like a lot of the extremely interesting stuff that's pertinent to this community has passed. A lot of the rest is like kind of like synergizing other ideas into psychedelia, and I think it's very important, but it's its own beast. And I look forward to sharing that as well. So that's it for part 3.